The Battle of Moria, Hardhome, and Aragon with the Cull. What do these three scenes have in common? They are a small band of heroes fighting against insurmountable odds, and these scenes just breathe desperation, heartache, and the bitter taste of victory. Do you want to add these scenes into your table? Well, stick to the end of this video. I'm going to teach you the 6 tips in order to make swarm battles in your combat. Welcome back, storytellers. My name is Khalil Roberson, a seasoned dungeon master, here to help you pursue your fantasy. And sorry for the hiatus from YouTube, but in my hiatus from YouTube, I've been spending a lot of time in our community Discord, which if you're not a part of yet, go ahead and click the link in the description below and join our amazing Discord full of other storytellers who are just very interested in engaging in making better stories. So, in today's video, we're going to be continuing the interesting combat series, which if you haven't watched the other videos in it, go ahead and click this iCard over here in the corner. Now, in today's video, we're going to be really talking about the juicy amazingness of being able to throw swarms and swarms of enemy combatants at your players, and how to keep that fun and interesting in order to give that feeling of desperation to your players, that sense of heartache, and that bitter taste of victory. Oh, these things are my favorite things to deploy ever. They work so well, and they really make your players feel epic while still putting them in perspective to the world. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Tip number 1 is setup or foreshadow. In the Battle of Moria, when the band of heroes are walking through Moria, they see that there are hundreds of dead dwarves, and they actually at one point find that there is an arrow from a goblin. So just doing that and setting up what's going to be happening will get your players just all amped up and riled up and be like, alright, we know something's about to go down, we know something big's gonna go down, let's get ready, let's get prepared, let's get juiced up. And that'll just make them already start to get in that mental processing to want to get into this combat, to want to attack it, or want to avoid it and then be dealing with ramifications of not doing it. Not Ghibli. Hobbits. Tip number 2 is the CSCC Loop. Now, what is a CSCC Loop? Basically, this is the algorithm that you're going to be following in order to keep your swarm battle interesting. If you ever ran a long, like an entire session long combat, you will find out very quickly if you have a fighter who just rolls a d20, then rolls his damage, and that's all that they do, they'll get really bored really quickly, and it is just not fun for them. So, the way that we fix this is by doing the CSCC Loop, which stands for Combat, Skill Challenge, Chase, Repeat. Now, what does this mean? So, you start the players off in combat. They're fighting whatever these are. These goblins that are trying to tear them down. And then from there, once they finish that combat, or they get to the point where they're starting to become overwhelmed, you do some sort of skill challenge, which enables them to either run away, thwart off something that's way larger than them that they mechanically can never physically beat, and you engage them in some sort of skill challenge that allows them to tear it down, or they're trying to escape from this crumbling building. Then from there you go into a chase scene in which they're being chased by this huge swarm and they're trying to find some sort of advantageous position. And then after that, you just repeat the loop until they finally finish and succeed your swarm battle. And what this will do is it'll break up the monotony of combat and just rolling dice, and it'll keep their anticipation up and keep the desperation right there. And also it'll make them feel like whatever this threat is that you're throwing at them is so large that they couldn't possibly just sit in one combat encounter and just mow it down. They have to keep moving, they have to keep on re-engaging. And that'll just add in that sprinkle of desperation that you want your players to feel. So, the CSCC Loop is the way to go. Tip number 3, no numbers. Very simple. Either two things will happen if you put a number, and not only if you put a number for you to know, but if you put a number that your players know. If you put a number, either you will have way too many creatures in this swarm battle, and you'll wind up overwhelming your players too much, and just absolutely wreck them and destroy them. Or, the second thing will happen in which you give them too little, in which your players just mow through everything, and the encounter doesn't have that little taste of desperation that you wanted it to have in the first place. So, very simple. Don't tell your players concrete numbers, and for yourself, only really have waves. That way you can control the crunch of the battle in real time and either make it a little less if you're starting to see the players are like really on the ropes and they really can't take it, or you can crank it up a little more if you think that your players are just mowing through everything. Tip number 4, keep moving. Now, if you keep your players in physically the same terrain that they've been fighting this entire time, your players will quickly become bored. Why? Because they'll either find an advantageous position if they're war gamers and just mow everything down from there, which will just make it boring because they're just now rolling dice because they have this great position. Or they'll simply be bored because it's just like, alright, well, we're sitting here and we're just killing these things constantly back and forth. So what you need to do is you need to keep your players moving. And if you follow the CSCC Loop, they will be moving regardless. So you have to move them into physically different rooms and different terrains. And don't keep all the rooms or terrains the same. Don't make them all flat areas with just a couple of pillars. No. Make sure that the terrain's radically changing That way they can feel like, ooh, yes, we're going somewhere, we're doing things. That is what you need to do in order to keep it interesting for your players. Tip number 5, keep everyone involved. Now, earlier I had talked about the fighter who's just swinging their metal stick, and for the most part they don't really get to add a lot aside from just their raw damage output. For them, the combat part of the CSCC loop will quickly become very boring. So the way you fix this is find some way in order to engage that player. Whether or not you have them make some sort of perception check in order to see that they're starting to get flanked by the enemy, or you simply have them make some sort of skill check to see if they can find a weakness in the chinks of the armor of this large creature that is now fighting them. Whatever it is, find some way to keep that player engaged. And it can be as simple as making them do some sort of die roll to get some sort of minuscule piece of information that they can then share with the rest of the party. That's all you need to do. You just need to give them something in order to change the monotony of just rolling dice and just killing things by just rolling a die and having no real thought to it. Just give them a little something to keep them interested. Tip number 6, minions and sweeping attacks. Now, if you have never played 4E, which I haven't, but I pour through the 4E manuals all the time for stealing. In 4th edition, there was something called minions, which basically are creatures that have all the same normal stat blocks of a normal creature, but the difference is their hit points were 1. Now, what this does is it makes these creatures a legitimate threat and challenge, but it makes your players feel epic and awesome because they don't have to sit there constantly swinging at this one thing until it dies. They can simply swing once, die, next thing. And that will make your players just feel epic. And another thing, which is more or less a homebrew rule of mine that you should definitely think about implementing, is sweeping attacks. So if your players either roll a crit or deal so much damage, you allow them to just carve through a large amount of them, or just quickly and definitely just slice through an entire mob. This will do 2 things. 1, it'll make them feel epic and so cool, and they'll just feel amazing. And 2, you just get to throw more things at them, which will make the combat encounter more challenging, but keep it balanced because your players are able to neutralize so many of them. Swarm battles and set piece battles are probably one of the most interesting things that you can see in movies, read in books, and play at a table. But if not done properly, they can quickly become monotonous, boring, and uninteresting. If you follow these 6 tips, that will seriously help you make your swarm battles interesting, cool, dynamic, and just make your players have so much fun. And it'll add in that hint of desperation. Those times where they're like, oh, are we really going to be able to make it through this? We need to move. We need to change things up. And that is really what will give you that amazing combat encounter. If you really enjoyed this video, please feel free to sneak attack that like button. And if you really liked it, please feel free to subscribe as I post new content just like this once every single week. And if you'd like to join us in our Discord, we have an amazing community of other storytellers who would like to engage with you, help you in your table, and also give you more creative things to add into your world. Also, I am starting up a website where I'm posting a blog and like newer stuff and more different content that I normally post on this YouTube channel. So if you'd like to check that out, go ahead and click the link in the description. But nonetheless, I hope you're having a fantastic day and stay safe. And in a world without fantasy, sometimes we need a little Dungeons and Dragons.